Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today from wherever you are joining us from across Saskatchewan. My name is Aaron Adair. I am a program coordinator with the Saskatoon Industry-Education Council, and we're so glad that you could join us today for our Technology Careers panel. We're really excited that we've got some experts from the Saskatchewan tech community to share their experience and insights with you today. And we're very excited as well to be coming to you from Saskatoon, which is on Treaty 6 territory and homeland of the Métis. We're excited that you could be joining us from wherever you may be across Saskatchewan. Today we are going to be hopefully helping you find some information that may be helping you with your career journey, because I know we've got lots of students joining us. Normally we'd be doing this in person, of course, but one of the neat things, one of those silver linings people talk about nowadays is that we're reaching really across the province. We have students from down south in Weyburn joining us, all the way up to Wollaston Lake. So we're really, really honored that everyone could join us today, and thank you for being here with us. So just a quick little bit of background information here. So the Saskatoon Industry-Education Council is a registered nonprofit organization, and we work very closely with the school divisions that you see at the bottom of your screen, including the Saskatoon Tribal Council as well. We work with community-based organizations, government agencies, and employers to help nurture the workforce of tomorrow. The SIEC provides career development and discovery opportunities for youth educators and career practitioners through customized programming. So normally we'd have up to about 40 programs a year, and a lot of our stuff is online this year, but some of you may be familiar with the programs that you see at the bottom of your screen, including our skills boot camps, where students get the opportunity to get some hands-on skill development that may lead to their future skill that they'll need for their career path. Connected, a fantastic mentorship for young ladies. We just happen to be hosting a second one this year. It's happening this week, Thursday, May the 13th. So ladies, if you haven't signed up for that yet, please make sure that you do. You can see our websites at the bottom of the screen. And today just happens to be the deadline for the summer youth internship applications. So make sure that you get those applications in if you haven't already. And if you haven't started it, oh boy, you got some work to do. It's an amazing opportunity where students who are interested in a career in the trades get an internship, paid internship over the summer, and get an opportunity to earn high school credits as well. So a really awesome opportunity. And our event today is also a part of our digitized event that we normally would be hosting at the U of S this year. I think we'd have about 350 people crammed into a lecture hall at the U of S. Obviously, that is a little bit different this year, and it has moved completely online this year. So if you haven't registered for Digitize, you can see the website at the bottom of the screen there, digitize.usas.ca. Make sure you check that out. And you can also see that the content isn't just for computer science students, but it stretches across different sciences and career and work exploration classes as well. So something that I definitely suggest that you check out. And if you don't believe me that it's a really cool event to check out, you just got to listen to the music. I mean, it's pretty awesome. See what I mean? I mean, it just sounds awesome, right? You want to join in on that. So you get a little character that you get in the Gather platform, and you can move around and check out presentations, including one from Linda Carmichael about her journey from Saskatoon to San Francisco, where she now works for Google. So a really cool career journey that she shares with you. So folks, on to today's event. Again, we're so glad that we've got classes from around Saskatchewan with us today. We're in a webinar format, which may be unique for some of you. That just means that basically you can type questions into the Q&A whenever your class or you as an individual student or individual who's joining us have a question, just type it into the Q&A, and our moderator will get to your question as the event progresses. So we are, again, very, very glad that we've got 5 experts from Saskatchewan's tech community who have volunteered their time today and are joining us. And I'm just going to start off actually by introducing our moderator. So we are very excited that Brittany Melnyk from ANGO Systems is going to be our moderator today. She's agreed to navigate through this event with you and to share her experience as well. So Brittany, we're so glad that you could join us today. And folks, I'll just give you a little information about Brittany. So she works with ANGO Systems, as I mentioned, a technology company that solves absence management in healthcare by converting manual scheduling processes to automated and intelligent workflows. They fill the right shift with the right person at the right time. I like that. She has a master in business administration and a degree in computer science, both from the University of Saskatchewan. She's previously worked for the U of S and IBM Canada and co-introduced Saskatoon chapter of Ladies Learning Code, a nonprofit organization that teaches digital literacy to women and youth. Brittany is an advocate for women in leadership and active in the local tech community. And these are just many of the reasons why we're excited that Brittany is with us here today. So Brittany, thanks again for joining us today. And I just wanted to see if you could tell the students just a little bit more about ANGO before we get started here.
Yeah. Thanks for the introduction. ANGO Systems, like in that bio introduction, absence management, it's like what is that even? But if you think about, say a health region, say an emergency ward, a nurse, if she calls in sick, you need to fill that shift again, so to make sure that they have the right staff on the emergency ward to make sure the patients are cared for and all that good stuff. So when someone calls in sick, what used to happen is, someone called in sick, we need to fill in the shift. So a person would get on the phone and have a paper list and be like, okay, who can work? And they just go down the list and try to call and find that replacement. So with our system, what we do is we use technology to completely automate that whole flow. So what used to take hours to fill a shift would actually just takes a few minutes. So that's what we do. We fill absences for these complex organizations like healthcare, where it's really critical to get those shifts filled ASAP.
Awesome. That is fantastic to hear. And just students, just an example of the innovation that's happening across Saskatchewan right now, and just one example of many that you're going to hear today. So Brittany, thanks again for agreeing to moderate. I am going to disappear now and hand it over to you, and I'll get you to introduce all of our panelists, and we're excited to hear about their experiences and career journeys.
Awesome. All right, so super excited to introduce our panelists. Very good lineup. I know everyone here, which is great to see. Lots of good talent here, so I think it'll be a really good hour. So I guess first one off the docket is Katherine. So Katherine, if you want to turn on your camera, I can do your introduction. So it's a fact that only 6% of tech companies have female CEOs. Katherine Regnier is proud to be one of them. She's the CEO and founder of Coconut Software, a customer engagement software platform that is trusted by large banks and credit unions, such as Capital One, Arvis Bank, and Van City. Fun fact, she's also a founding board member of CoLabs, Saskatchewan's first tech incubator. She sits on the University of Washington Foster School of Business Advisory Board, and she's the president of her kids' Ukrainian dance club. If you know Katherine, she has a heart for giving back and community building. Welcome, Katherine. So if you want to just give a little bit more insight into your career, your role, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, Brittany, would it be okay if I could share my screen? I have like a tiny little presentation that I think the students will hopefully enjoy.
Definitely.
Okay, so are you able to see my screen right now?
Perfect.
We're good? We're good? Okay, so hello to all the students and teachers. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm gonna go really quick, but I have a short little presentation that will hopefully inspire each of you to think about your own journey and your own possibilities as you move forward. And so I always ask, like, have you thought about what your career is after high school? And obviously, if you're here, you're starting to put some thought into it. And, have you thought about building a tech company or being an engineer where you're building software that's on your computer or your iPad or your phone? And that's just really, really exciting. And, and if you haven't thought about being in tech, have you even thought about just owning your own company? And that was something that was a big part of my decision. Was I really wanted to be a founder of something. I wanted to own my own company. I wanted to build a community around that. I didn't know what the idea was when I wanted to do this. I just knew that one day I was going to own my own business. And so a lot of times I get asked, you know, how do you even start? And I think the first thing is that you really just need to start with an idea, whatever that idea might be. So if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a carpenter, there just needs to be that sense of passion within you. And then it's really about starting to execute on that idea. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So how did I come up with the idea for Coconut? So as Brittany mentioned, we're a customer engagement platform. What the heck does that mean? That means that if you have money in the bank and you want to speak to somebody there, you can easily click a few buttons and you can talk to the right person at the right time. And so I came up with the idea for Coconut when I realized I could book a flight to Boston quicker than I could get a hold of my massage therapist down the hall. And I thought, oh, there must be a better way. So always listen to those ideas, because you never know when it might be that $1 million idea. And the other thing is sometimes we're intimidated about getting into tech because we're not very familiar with it. We don't know what it means. We don't know what software means. We don't know absence management or appointment scheduling. I need you to know I knew nothing about tech. I grew up on a grain and cattle farm in the middle of nowhere, Saskatchewan. I did not have a clue. And so if there's something that you're interested in, but you're not sure how to do it, it's okay. The point is that you have the ability to figure it out. You're smart, you're intelligent, you're bright, and you just need to be curious and ask those around you to introduce you to people in regards to what it is that you're looking to do. I'm gonna go super quick because I'm probably over time. Dreams don't work unless you do. All of this is really hard. And it's really important that you love working hard, because if you can find something you're passionate about, one, it won't feel like work, but two, you'll just really flourish. And like myself, I just feel so grateful to get up every day and build something meaningful for the community. And I also get to do that with a team of fabulous people. So here's our staff. Surround yourself with really good people and work towards a common vision is really, really exciting and fun, especially in tech. And, you know, your idea can then be used all over the world. So I think it's really fascinating that this idea that I had in my head is actually being used in real businesses, even here in Saskatchewan. Dream really big, dream really big. Think about how you can turn this into a really big business. There's no limit. I think that's the most exciting thing about you owning your own company or being in tech. You can do some really, really impactful things along the way. And last but not least, it can be a bit uncomfortable. And I'm speaking to all the girls in the group right now. You know, what do you notice about this picture? This is me in the front. Now, most people say, you're the only girl. And I say that's absolutely okay, because that means you stand out. And it might be uncomfortable at times, but that's all right. Because you just be you, and I don't want anyone to ever hold themselves back because they feel like maybe they don't belong. You always belong. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Katherine. Just, oh, big fan right here. All right, so I think next up for an introduction for our lovely panelists, we'll go next to, I believe, Aaron Genest. I'll wait for there we go. Perfect, so Aaron Genest, he serves, if you want to turn on your camera, Aaron. Aaron Genest serves as the Siemens appointee to SaskTech, providing him with the dubious distinction of being president of Saskatchewan's Technology Advisory Organization. Otherwise, he works for Siemens, primarily as a company mascot after the 2018 acquisition of Solido Design. In a previous life, he spent 10 years as a professional a cappella singer. He's the father of 3 boys and a husband to Dr. Emily Jenkins, a parasitologist extraordinaire. If you need more information about his relatively uninteresting life, Aaron's details are easily accessible through a Google search, following him on Twitter at Aaron Genest, or just creeping him on LinkedIn. Awesome, so Aaron, if you want to give us a few more words about your career path and in your role.
Sure. Hi, it's nice to meet everybody. My career path has been odd, I guess, would be the best way to put it, since I did start as a musician before I got to the point of being a technologist. And it turns out that path's not unusual. A lot of the people I went to university with in computer science were musicians, and many of them failed musicians, just like me. And then I guess my, the unique thing about my career path, or perhaps interesting thing about my career path, is that I was still able to go back and get a PhD. I was still able to join a startup and end up in a management position. And I still have, a few years of life left in me to work. So you don't have to necessarily have a decision to go and found a company right out of the gate, or to be in a particular field right out of the gate. Often you learn a lot more by doing something else for a little while. And I would argue that in Saskatchewan, the bulk of our technology companies, the ones that are really emerging now, are not ones that are pure play tech. In other words, they're not, people sitting down with an idea and building software. I mean, those are admirable and really hard to do. And both Johannes and Brittany and Katherine are all part of those kinds of companies. But a lot of our companies now in tech are coming out of mining and agriculture and energy and finance. And so those are people who have gone and done those jobs for years sometimes, before realizing that there's some aspect of that job that can be done more efficiently, just like Katherine said, that would involve technology. And then starting their own company that way, or getting involved in an up and coming company that is doing something in that field. And they bring a fantastic perspective to that, based on their experience out in the field doing the work that they're going to be supporting technologically. So there's a lot of value to going and exploring other career opportunities, and recognizing that you can pivot at any point in your career, just like I did, I guess. I'll keep mine short to make up for Katherine.
Thanks, Aaron. That's fantastic. Yeah, careers are definitely not a linear journey. All right, so we'll continue on with our panelist introductions. On to Kevin Chung. Kevin Chung is a senior program manager at Innovation Saskatchewan, a provincial government agency responsible for delivering programs and policies that support research and development and innovation in Saskatchewan. He joined the provincial government in 2017 as an analyst, after graduating from the University of Saskatchewan with a Bachelor of Arts honors, majoring in political studies. At the agency, Kevin manages the Ag Tech Innovation Fund, a grant program that helps our province develop and commercialize game-changing innovations in agriculture. He also works closely with tech startups and companies, developing programs and policies to support the growth of Saskatchewan's tech sector. Welcome, Kevin. Yeah, any more insight into that fantastic career journey and what you do today?
Yeah, thanks, Brittany, for the lovely introduction, and thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. So maybe I should tell folks a little bit about the place I work at, just because where I work at is a little bit different than the rest of the panelists. I work on the government side, so I don't work in a company, a tech company in Saskatchewan, and as Brittany mentioned, we're a provincial government agency that essentially, in a nutshell, provides support and funding to both researchers and companies that are developing technologies and innovations in Saskatchewan. So an example, a lot of you may have heard the organization Veto Intervac in the news recently, and that's an organization that we fund to try to help researchers find a vaccine for COVID-19. That's part of what we do. The other part is to try to help some of the startups and some of the companies that are in Saskatchewan grow and help entrepreneurs bring their ideas to life, as Katherine mentioned. And we do that through funding organizations like CoLabs, which is a tech incubator, where entrepreneurs can work there, can work alongside other entrepreneurs, and again bring their ideas to life. In terms of my role, I work very, very closely with a lot of startups, a lot of companies, and I manage a few different programs to, again, help them get the support that they need, help them get the funding that they need to grow their company, hire more people, and develop their technologies, and hopefully get to a place where you know, they're able to get their technologies out to people who need it and use it. And my personal career journey is probably a little shorter and less interesting than my fellow panelists, just because, to be quite honest, I'm fairly new in my professional career. I've only come out of university 4 years ago, and I've been at Innovation Saskatchewan ever since. I took political science when I was in university at the U of S because I love politics, I love public policy, and I love government. When I was young, I probably watched the news more than I did any TV shows and movies, and so that's why I took that path. But I also really love technology. I'm really passionate about technology and innovation. In university, I actually I was working a sales job, and I sold cell phones, and I didn't do that because I like sales. In fact, I like some of you, I actually get quite anxious when I talk to folks that I don't know, but I really like talking about technology and innovation and stuff that's coming out. And so that's why I held that job, and I really enjoyed talking about new things that are coming out. And so when I was coming out of university, this junior analyst position opened up in Innovation Saskatchewan, and I was very lucky to know about it, and it was almost a perfect combination of my passion in politics and technology, and I applied for it, and I got it, and I've been here ever since. So that's a little bit about my story, and I guess I'll leave it there and throw it back to you, Brittany.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kevin. All right. And last but not least, we have our final panelist, Johannes Lindenbaum. So Johannes is a co-founder of 7 Shifts and currently manages a team of smarter than him people to keep 7 Shift services always running for customers and advocating for the Saskatchewan tech ecosystem through SK Tech and collabs. Joey, your bio is way too short. You're very modest. He's one of the smartest people I know and is a fantastic leader for tech in Saskatchewan. So Joy, if you want to give us some more insight into, your career journey and what you do at 7 Shifts.
Now I'm just blushing. Thank you. So I work for a company called 7 Shifts. We do software as well. It's focused on labor management. What that really means is that we provide tools for restaurants to become more efficient in how they schedule their staff, train, employ, pay. There's an entire employee life cycle that we kind of help automate for managers. We make the experience, if you currently work in a restaurant and you know how you get your schedules on like paper or on Post-it notes, and like trading a shift is super difficult, we try and automate a lot of that with like really convenient mobile apps for staff as well. For me, I'm really excited about the future of technology in Saskatchewan. It's a vastly different landscape than it was when I left high school 15 years. 15 years ago, it was like interestingly questionable if going into tech in Saskatchewan was a good thing, or if it was just better to just like pack up and leave. So 7 Shifts, I'm really happy to be part of this company. I'm really proud to be part of this company. We're one of Canada's best companies to work for companies up to 200 people. That's 2 years in a row now that we've been voted by that, which is all staff-based. We're taking a brand new approach to how we compensate people. So we no longer pay people based off their location within the country. We're focused on just doing like a national wage that is tied to Toronto. So what's exciting about that is that you can live and work in Saskatoon with low cost of living, but get paid as if you were living in Toronto, which is really exciting. We're switching a lot of stuff to go remote first. So we have offices in Saskatoon, Toronto, and New York. And we have people that work for us all across the country. We have people in Calgary and Vancouver and Winnipeg. So yeah, we see COVID as this like really great opportunity to get more people to work in tech wherever they want to, but also get paid a really awesome wage in Toronto. So a bit more about myself and kind of what I do every day. So I studied at the U of S. I worked throughout university for a company called zoo.com, where I made websites. It was a really easy way to get into tech. After that, I moved to Regina and I worked for SaskTel. I worked in a research and labs division. So we got to like play around with a bunch of new stuff and try and make new products that SaskTel could sell. After a couple of years, I quit and I joined 7 Shifts as a co-founder. We moved to California. All 3 of us moved to California for 5 or 6 months, and we worked our butts off. And we managed to get some funding, and we moved the entire whole thing back to Canada. And the investors at the time were so confused because they're like, Sasko, what? And like, why aren't you staying in the Valley? This is insane that you're leaving the tech center of the world to come back to Canada. And we're like, now we're good, because 1, we can make funding last so much longer because it's cheaper there, and like 2, we really want to do this at home. We think that there's an opportunity to grow something in the prairies. So since then, that was 8 years ago now. So since then, we've grown 7 Shifts to be about 160 people. We have offices in Saskatoon, Toronto, and New York. And then for myself, like I joined as just a mobile dev. I just started working on the software side of things, and now I've had a bunch of different positions and roles and responsibilities. So I've gone from executive to director, and now a lot of where I spend my time and focus is technical strategy and architecture. So I help manage a team that kind of tries to predict the future of our growth and make sure that everything stays running for our customers. So there's a lot of really exciting technical puzzles that I get to solve all day, a lot of firefighting and bouncing around, and there's not a lot of monotony in my job, which is something that like really excites me. So yeah, I'm super pumped to be here and talk a bit more about that.
Awesome, thanks, Joey. All right, so yeah, we've introduced our panelists. We have everyone from, you know, starting a company from the ground up to helping Sask tech companies grow in the province, to those supporting the growth of those companies through grants and funding. So I mean, yeah, so what I'd like to do is kick off the first question. We have such a range of different roles in this group. What does a typical day look like? Everyone has different size companies, different roles. And I'd like to actually start with Katherine. We'll start with the one who started the company ground up. What does a CEO do? What's your typical day?
I think a typical day probably depends on what stage you're at in your company. You know, I think everyone can relate that in the early days, you're doing everything from taking customer calls to testing software to paying people. And so just a real variety. I think at this stage, you're a real generalist early on. And then as your company gets bigger and bigger, your roles change, just as Joey had said. And so I think that's the exciting thing about being in tech, is your day can change. Unfortunately, I spend a lot of time on Zoom every day, just like the rest of us. So my day is probably not as exciting as it used to be. But usually company meetings, staff meetings, customer meetings, flying on site to customers. You get to do a lot of travel with tech, which can be really exciting. But for right now, it's been a lot of Zoom.
Awesome. Maybe anyone want to jump in next? Full sign, Aaron.
So trade secret, the panelists are chatting in the background here about this question, because Katherine nailed it. It's different depending on your role, and your role changes very rapidly. I think that's a characteristic of tech. So I've had every role from being a frontline technical support person up to being a director in a startup, to being kind of a special teams person in a small team in a very large company. Now I actually have 3 different hats. One is that I manage a team of 14 people who are spread out around the world, who support the top 40 semiconductor companies in the world. So Intel, NVIDIA, Samsung, Qualcomm, in using our complicated software. And so I frequently am trying to be the sword that cuts whatever Gordian knot exists in the day, in the politics and technology combination that so often rears its head when you're trying to manage the deployment of enterprise level software within complex customer environments. Another one is that I'm the government affairs appointee for Saskatchewan for Siemens Canada. And so that means that I talk to government and post-secondary institutions to try and get the lay of the land so that I can bird dog our sales team into the right location. But frequently that's actually more a collaborative thing than anything else. Like right now I'm trying to set up the Siemens Academy in Saskatchewan, which means that the Saskatchewan Polytechnic and the University of Saskatchewan will collaborate to provide coursework that augments, say, you know, the last year of a master's course or the last year of a Sask Poly technical course to people who will be hired as Siemens employees while going through their schooling. And so there's a whole bunch of moving parts on that, as you can imagine. And so my days are involved in, you know, having phone calls on that. And we're also trying to deploy a microgrid into a Saskatoon school so that students like you can work in a living lab to be able to get hands-on experience with electricity. And then I have a third hat, which is this helping with the board of SaskTech, of which actually Katherine's company and Johannes's company are members, and Kevin assists with a great deal with through Innovation Saskatchewan, help us navigate the policy decisions that governments are making to try and ensure that we have people who will work for our companies in Saskatchewan. So every day is really, really different, but it doesn't start off that way. It starts off kind of filling a job where it's fairly well defined. And then a characteristic of it is that you get the job that you do to some extent. So the more you take on, the more you're interested in, the more you have suggestions for where your company can go or what'll happen, the more you end up finding yourself doing something different, and then that becomes your official job.
Yeah, Joey, do you have anything to add to the roller coaster of every day?
Yeah, I can only echo what Katherine was saying. Like, my role has changed so much over the years, where initially when you join, I was number 3 at 7 Shifts. So you're kind of just there trying to do everything. So I was like, you're answering customer emails, you're dealing with customer feedback, you're trying to like keep things running. You're also trying to program new features. You're like half in sales, trying to like land customers and do stuff. So like, you're absolutely all over the place. But as the company grows and you find more people that are much better at doing this, you start specializing and you go a little bit deeper and you get to figure out like what you really want to do, what you're passionate about, and where you kind of focus. So I'm so grateful for the experience to be able to have this like breadth of knowledge that has really like strengthened my like business acumen, because I've been exposed to so many different parts of the company. But now I'm also really excited that I can like go a little bit deeper, and instead of being a jack of all, I can hopefully like become a master of one. So I'm really, really excited for that transition. But it's been like an 8-year journey through organized chaos is usually what I call it, like working for a startup. It's every day can be different. Yesterday it's a great example. Yesterday I had a plan. I had a to-do list, and I was going to sit down for 8 hours and I was just going to do it. And then about 2 hours into it, we had like a production fire, and like everything goes out the window, and it's like all hands on deck to try and like fix the stuff and make customers happy, while you're like, your customer support team's like breathing down your throat to be like, what's up? What's going to happen? When are we going to get things back? And then, you're just there trying to fix stuff. And at the end of the day, I'm like, cool, I know I did something, but I actually got nothing done that I wanted to do, and I'm going to be playing catch up for the rest of the week. So it's like, it can be all over the place, but it's also incredibly rewarding and exciting.
Awesome. And so Kevin, coming in from the different side of things, the government funding organization, what would a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, thanks. I guess I probably echo what my fellow panelists have said already. We have very different days. Every day is pretty exciting. I think that chalks down to, you know, number one, we're a fairly small team. We're about 10, 12 people at any given time. And, you know, secondly, our main job is for our agency is to serve the tech sector, right? And so I think it's reflective of you know, how fast things change in the tech world. And, you know, one day I'll be talking to a company that's or a founder that's trying to develop a self-driving farm equipment. And then the next day I'll be talking to you know, some researchers that are trying to manufacture vaccines in Saskatchewan. And then the next I'll be talking to Aaron about what they need in the tech sector and how we can help them get more people in the province, get the talent that they need, and get the capital that they need to continue growing. So it's you know, I have to say I probably have one of the most exciting jobs in government in working with the tech sector, just because again things change very quickly, and you know, our role really is to respond as quickly and to try to help again companies and researchers get the resources they need and get the support they need to do their work and help the sector grow in the province. So.
Awesome. Yeah, there's one thing growing a business and all of the roller coaster rides that come with it, but then there's the other half of technology that's constantly growing, changing, and responding to that. So you put them together, and I mean, a career in tech, that's no. If you like excitement and you don't want to be bored, this is a career path. So we had a really good question. What's a startup? What's the difference between a startup versus maybe one of the organizations that you see on this panel? I'm gonna go back to Katherine again, just because she started a startup. So it's Joey, but started a startup.
No, I'm happy to answer it. So as I was going through my presentation, remember I said if you take an idea and you're going to build something, that's really a startup, right? So you're starting with an idea. You don't know what you're building or what you're fully making, but you have an idea for it. So when we started Coconut, my idea was that I should be able to book a massage therapist online day or night, and I shouldn't have to phone and I shouldn't have to email. And so that was my idea. I noticed there was another question. What if you have no experience? So like I said, I had zero experience. I didn't even really understand what software really even was at that time. And so what you do is you just reach out to other people that do know, and you ask about them. And there's a really great tech community in Saskatoon that is creating an ecosystem here. And just like Joey and the rest of us, we're really sticking our feet in and saying we can do it from Saskatchewan. So a startup is when you have an idea, you usually go raise money, and then you take that money and you hire people to build your idea, and then you try to sell it to customers. Very simplistic form.
Perfect. All right, so we have another question. I'm gonna rephrase it into a little bit bigger question for you guys. So how do you get into tech? So when you think about technology, you think about the classic, it's a software developer. So you go to school, you get a computer science degree, or you go to Sask Polytech, University of Saskatchewan, whatever it is. But there's that education, you know, developer, and then you go work for a company. But knowing that your organizations today, there's so many different roles that play different ranges of education for computer science or different responsibilities. You're not necessarily coding all day. So can you guys provide some insight into the different roles of technology roles that, you know, someone could have at your company?
I can take a stab at that one. Because I'm actually in a non-traditional technology role and have been for my whole career, as it turns out, to my surprise. Being a developer is absolutely one of those roles, but it's worth understanding that, in fact, there is no quote-unquote classic developer. Somebody who works for my company as a developer is actually a very different person in terms of expertise and skills than somebody who works for 7 Shifts or for Coconut. You can acquire those skills, and it tends to actually be more that you look for a certain kind of person than a particular skill set, because we teach those skill sets. That said, there are different paths to being a developer that should be recognized off the bat. And they do come from Sask Poly or from the University of Saskatchewan or Regina. or from simply actually working as a contractor on skills that you have developed yourself and gradually skilling up that way, which is a very valid way. In fact, one of the founders of Noodle Cake Games was really cut his teeth mostly as a contractor first, building websites before he went into becoming starting his own company. I worked as an applications engineer, which is actually a technical sales role. And these roles are in very high demand right now. So if you have a combination of communication skills and technical skills, it is something that you pretty much get a job at any of our companies very quickly. That can mean basically that you're ensuring that whatever customer you're working with is technically successful with the tools that you're trying to sell them, so that they buy it if they're evaluating it, or so they buy more if they're already your customer. Those kinds of technical roles, or that kind of technical knowledge, branches into other things as well. So pure play sales, or kind of what you think of as sales in terms of steak dinners and warm handshakes. The more technical you are, the easier it is to be able to be effective in those positions, and respected, frankly. But also marketing is very useful if you have a technical knowledge. And so a lot of marketing is digital, but also relates to digital tools. So the data you gather from marketing is pretty important. Technical roles are also present, as I said earlier, in things like financial sector, or in agriculture sector, in a mining sector. So Nutrien, for instance, has been hiring a ton of technical people right now. And it's mostly in data analytics and data science, because they have a whole bunch of information about what the ore looks like that's coming out, or what the product looks like that's coming out of the ground, and what its journey is all the way to ending up on a field, for instance, for potash. And so they can extract a lot of information from there. And so they need people who understand mining, but are also technically able to do data analytics. In finance, Affinity Credit Union and Conexus are hiring a ton of technical teams as well. And so they need to understand something about banking. So you can take a lot of paths to be into technical roles. And the good news is that we need people from all of those paths. So you can't really pick a bad one. You're going to end up in a position where, if you have the technical knowledge and some of that other experience, either, it could be just that you're purely technical, but it could be a marriage of technology and a particular domain like engineering or finance or marketing or agriculture or energy, or it could be that you're a consummate communicator. Any one of those things with those technical skills is going to find you a really good job.
Awesome. Joey, what would be some different roles at 7 Shifts that we can see that maybe would be in addition to a software developer?
That's interesting. So I'm sure people have heard this pretty common expression now that every company is a tech company. To me, working in tech is more about a mindset. If you can find a company that respects how everyone at the company is part of the whole, no one person stands out beyond everyone. It's all the moving pieces together have to be in perfect unison to be able to move the company in the right direction. And even at 7 Shifts, even though we produce technology, we have to rely on technology to be able to do that. And that is across every single department in the company. Even if you don't know how to program, having a pretty solid understanding of how software works, or how the internet roughly works, what's the difference between installing something on your computer and running something in a browser. Being able to understand those high-level concepts gives you such an edge over other people that are trying to get into tech but don't understand how tech works. Some of the other non-traditional programmer jobs that we have that are in really high demand for us are project managers, people that understand how to effectively herd cats and get results and push products forward. The ones that we find that have the best edge over others are usually people that are transitioning from other careers into project management. A lot of our PMs are formerly in sales, or they're in engineering, or they have a lot of, they love to solve puzzles, even if they can't write the code themselves. So, and again, that's like one of those things that's across all departments for us. Some of the best people that work for us are engineers that didn't want to do civil engineering anymore, and now they work in our marketing or customer success department, just because it gives them a different outlet to solve puzzles quickly, even though they can't do the tech themselves. So strong communication skills, an interest in solving puzzles quickly, those are the types of things that can get you into non-traditional type tech roles. Basically, any STEM field that you can think of has an application in a tech company.
Yeah, Katherine, any positions or anything to add there?
I think if you're interested, I think we've talked about some of the traditional ones, the product managers, engineering, but there's marketing, there's HR if you love people. That's such a big part of companies. So I think if you look at any business, a tech company still has your finance, your HR, sales, marketing. And so even if you don't understand how to program something or build something, you can still work at a tech company and have a really successful career, most likely in what you're interested in.
Yeah, and it's kind of back to your intro, Katherine, technology, it's everywhere, but just don't be scared of it. It's solvable, it's learnable, it's a skill we can all learn.
Yeah, I was just saying that how most of the students on this call probably don't know what the world was like before internet. They probably didn't have the flip phone when text messaging just started. So I think if anything, this generation has such an advantage of understanding tech and what value it can bring to people's lives.
Totally. So Kevin, working with the wide variety of Saskatchewan companies across our province, what are the needs? What are the roles that we need to fill that are in demand?
Sales, I think is a massive one. I talked to a lot of companies that need salespeople, and I think part of it is because a lot of the government programs out there are aimed directly towards helping pay the cost of technical folks, and a lot of, especially for startups, right? A lot of startups are very much focused on the R&D side and on the technical side. But you need good salespeople to market your product and to get it out there, right? And so a lot of companies that are coming to us, they're needing a lot of business development and salespeople. And I guess back to the original question, which was kind of how to get into tech, and I think a lot of panelists were talking about working in a tech company, but on my side, I work with a lot of folks who are early founders, and they're a lot of folks I talk to, they don't have that tech background, right? Just like Katherine, they just have a good idea, and quite honestly, that's where I would say to folks who want to get into tech and have a good and they're coming up with good ideas, like that's really all you need, right? To start off. If you have a good idea, there are supports out there. There's a very supportive community now that you have to work hard. You have to take risks, and I'm certainly not saying that you shouldn't bolster your technical skills, because that would be very helpful and very useful down in your career. But if you have a good idea, there's a lot of help out there. You can call me. I'll point you in the right directions, and hopefully help you get your business off the ground. And that's what I would say in terms of if you're wanting to get into tech and you have a good idea, Saskatchewan's a really good place to start a new company and get your idea off the ground. So
what Kevin's saying is that this is a really good place to fail a few times. And actually that's kind of implicit in this is that this stuff is, you're going to make mistakes as an entrepreneur or even just as an individual in your career path and the things that you're trying to do. And that's all right. There's kind of a note of anxiety in at least one of these questions about how do I make sure that I kind of maximize my ability to be effective? Well, frankly, it's probably in doing the wrong thing a fair amount and quickly. I see Johannes is echoing that in the chat, but 100%. And what Kevin's saying that I hear and that didn't exist, I think, frankly, 5 or 6 years ago in Saskatchewan, is that failure is not only tolerated, but it's supported, and you'll come back out of that much stronger, and that people will recognize that as value, not a problem.
Awesome. So thinking about, you know, these new, like potential new hires, if someone wants to get in to work for a tech company, what would be some of the qualities that you typically just look for?
Ooh, I can take a first stab at this one. So especially for high school grads or for university grads, we have a pretty good understanding at this point of like where you're kind of at on like the knowledge scale and like what you know and what you don't know. What we look for when we hire people at Seven Shifts is, especially for programmers, we don't necessarily care too much about that they can program. That's kind of like a barrier to entry. But what we care about is collaboration and problem solving and teamwork. So we focus our entire interview process on collaboration. When you're standing in front of a whiteboard and you're trying to just like talk through a solution to a problem, not like writing code on a whiteboard, but actually just like trying to spitball like, hey, I try and approach this problem like this, or I try and solve it like this. That's what's really important to us, is like, how do you deal with multiple people working on the same problem? Do you try and like lone wolf it and just like get through it without asking for help, which is a negative for us? Or are you going to like ask clarifying questions and like lean on others for their expertise because you know that they're better at this than you? And like, it's a lot about like collaboration and teamwork. And again, that whole like the entire company is only as good as all moving parts moving together in unison.
Yeah, teamwork, collaboration, those are really big, important items to qualities to look for. Also in computer science, you always kind of say, you learn how to learn. So whatever is kind of thrown at you, you learn to learn, and then you're constantly growing. But I think the same can be said regardless of whatever industry you're in, whatever role you're playing in whatever company. Does anyone else, any other qualities that you guys look for new hires?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things, I think, you know, for me personally in university, on top of some of the technical skills you learn is exactly what you said, Brittany. You learn to learn. You figure out how to, you know, think critically with the information you have available, and yeah, you learn a lot of basically managing yourself and working with other people, right? You know, there's people always talk about how much they don't like working, you know, in group projects, but you know, it's something essential. You have to work in a workplace. You have to work with other people, and sometimes, you know, it might not go as well as you plan, but it's an important skill to have. And yeah, I think a lot of what you learn in university, on top of, again, some of the technical skills, is how to work with other people, how to manage your own work, how to you know, pretty much work autonomously and be accountable, and all those skills are very applicable in the workplace. So
awesome. So I'm just going to read one of these questions in the Q&A. I think we answered it already, but if we can give it another summary. So how do you get into tech if you come out of high school and you don't have any experience?
Well, my suggestion is to go to Sask Poly or to the University of Saskatchewan first. A few years of technical learning under your belt would be great. It would be lovely if we had programs in our high schools that could put you out to be able to get an entrance position in in something, and I won't say in QA, because actually QA turns out to be one of the more important things that we do, and we like to look for experienced people in QA, unlike maybe the reputation that the gaming companies have. By far, a post-secondary education is going to give you the best opportunity that you have. And I think a master's, if you're interested in going that far, which is not at all necessary, but it's still revenue positive for you. I think that you still end up with earning more money over your career if you do that. But it's so incredibly variable because, of course, if you're an entrepreneur, then you could actually make a lot of money if you have a successful exit, or if you're in an early stage or early to a startup, you can also make a fair amount of money. If you're an entrepreneur, or if you want to be an entrepreneur, there's a bunch of programs that you can get into after you found your company. And those are like incubators, for instance, CoLabs, or Cultivator by Conexus in Regina, that will give you a leg up on understanding how to build a successful business. And those are definitely a path that would be that are workable, and more of those are coming. And then the third piece, I think, is community. We all know each other on this call. We've all run into each other many times in one way or another. And most of that has been informal first. There are lots of community events. In fact, I think 7 Shifts and my company are putting one on this Friday called Pi Hour, where we invite people to come and meet people in the community. There's lots and lots of other events like that around. 7 Shifts has been doing them for some time, but Vendasta has an Ideas on Tap event. There are lots of little conferences. CoLabs and Cultivator both put on things. Those are opportunities to meet people who have problems. And you can go and talk to them about their problems. And one of those things is going to become interesting to you, and maybe you have a cool solution to it. And that's how you get into tech.
I just want to add on to what Aaron just said. I thought I wanted to be a developer. So I went to a post-secondary school. It started with graphic design, then they added the ability to learn how to program. And I was horrible. Like, I really sucked at all of it. So I think being able to find some courses that you can try online and see if you even enjoy it is like a really good start. I found out, like I said, I was horrible at it, but it gave me a lot of empathy and understanding for what developers have to go through. And I could understand that it's not just like, oh, put the button here and then it works. So I think that has made me a better communicator, because I tried it and was really bad, and now I really appreciate it. So I think if there's courses online that you can even try, that's just such a great start to see if you're really interested in it.
Yeah, and a buildup of all these different experiences can just lead to a really good role. So, I mean, I think about one of our product managers who's responsible for developing our product, make sure it's working for our users. They need empathy for the user, all that good stuff. You know, their background is in, an arts and science degree, some insurance job, like all of these collective experiences can always come together and, give some really good problem solving, all that good stuff. So knowing about, all the different jobs that are available in these companies for all these panelists, what are your thoughts about just the future of, careers in tech? I know we've touched on it a few times, but what are your thoughts on the future of careers in tech in Saskatchewan? What's the outlook?
I think when we talk about tech in Saskatchewan, if we look back 15 years ago, there wasn't much of a community. It was, we had a few, but there wasn't this ecosystem, and there weren't these conversations, and there weren't people like Kevin, Johannes, and Aaron, and Brittany to reach out to and talk to. But with technology, the beautiful thing is that you can work from anywhere now, and you can work for Google from Saskatoon if you wanted, or, Coconut, whatever that might be. So I think the future of tech in Saskatchewan is really bright. And I think we're only going to see it get better as some of these earlier startups start to grow. And then we have these big exits, which means someone comes and buys your company. And then we're going to start to see those individuals go off and start their own companies. And I think that's when the ecosystem really starts to flourish. So I'm super optimistic. It's grown exponentially since I started Coconut. And so I think we're just seeing more and more progression here in Saskatchewan.
Joy? Or I guess, Aaron, if you have 10 seconds to give an answer. I know Aaron has to jump off.
I have to run away, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, this is a different place than it was a decade ago, and it's to everybody's advantage. Huge amounts of investment coming into tech, and that's one of the things we haven't touched on it, but that startups are fueled primarily by investment money. And we have, in fact, just a $7 million announcement yesterday on behalf of Kirby Cars. But yeah, we had a record year 2 years ago. 2020 was obviously a dip, but you know, there's an asterisk beside that year in every industry, thanks to COVID. But 2021 is going to be a really solid year for investment in technology in Saskatchewan, and it's showing a ramp, which basically means we have more people interested in putting money into companies in Saskatchewan, and that turns into labor. We have very low overhead. We don't tend to build big, huge machine halls. We don't tend to build huge facilities. We just hire people. And so a career in tech or a business in technology, whichever your direction takes you as an employee or an employer, is showing a very rosy future, certainly for the next decade at least. Awesome. Thanks very much for having me. I'm very sorry to have to leave.
Thanks, Aaron. Johannes, future of tech careers in the province.
I'm pretty optimistic. Again, I think we have this really burgeoning ad tech sector for something that I think Saskatchewan or the prairies in general can be a leader in worldwide. I think that's pretty exciting. Mining, we have 3 of the world's biggest mining companies here in Saskatchewan, so there's a ton of opportunity there. Everything's going to rely more on big data analysis, companies pivoting and understanding more about tech. A lot of bigger companies have started realizing that outsourcing their tech problems to contracting shops is a pretty poor idea. If you're not in control of your own tech roadmap, you're probably not going to beat your competition. So there's a lot of larger companies that are hiring up internal software development, data analysis, whatever that might look like. So there's a lot of really interesting opportunity to stay and grow here in Saskatchewan.
Awesome. All right, Kevin, last final words for the digitized panel here. Future of tech careers in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I'm very optimistic too. I think the piece of advice I would give to folks on this webinar is, keep an open mind. The one thing you'll notice about everyone on this panel and the companies that they founded or work for is that none of them actually market directly to consumers. Right? Everyone knows, the Spotify, the Google, the Facebook, and because we use those software solutions and tech solutions, but there are a lot of companies out there that market directly to other businesses and solve problems in the business world that we don't necessarily know about. So one of the biggest names in Saskatchewan, Vendasta. I wish someone from Vendasta was here so that they can explain what they do. Because we always have a tough time talking about what Vendasta do, but they do really important work in terms of solving problems for businesses, and I think that trend is going to continue in Saskatchewan, where you see tech companies that are coming up with solutions and technologies specifically to solve challenges in sectors. So part of my role it shifted over the last few years, because we're now seeing a lot of companies in Saskatchewan, tech companies, that are trying to develop solutions to help farmers grow their crops, manage their inputs, and just work more efficiently. So drone technology, big data solutions, so that farmers know when to put in their fertilizer and when to harvest and when to do very important tasks at what time. those are going to be, I think, huge in Saskatchewan in the next few years. And I think, you know, the important thing for a lot of people who are, you know, thinking about their career coming out of high school and going to university is think about what you're passionate about, and think about how what you're passionate about ties back to some of the trends that are happening in the tech sector, and then start from there to explore your career. Because I think everyone on this panel will agree that you know, if you want to do something you're passionate about, you want to do something that you love, and I think if you start from that and then kind of match it up with some of the exciting things that are coming out in the tech sector, I think you'll be successful, and I think you'll love what you do every day. So.
Perfect. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you, panelists. Thanks for taking time. I'm going to hand this over to Aaron to take this home.
Awesome. I just want to, Katherine and everyone, you were talking about the old flip phones and stuff. I actually reached in my drawer and found one of my first cell phones right now, right here. I've even got my another one right here. I think these would just be like burner phones and TV shows now, basically, right? But yeah, I just want to thank everyone again. Brittany, thanks so much for moderating today. It was fantastic having you here, and everyone who's involved, Kevin, Johannes, Aaron, and Katherine. Just being leaders in this community and giving up your time today just shows how much you want to help out the students in Saskatchewan and getting their right foot forward, so to speak, and we really appreciate that. I really appreciated hearing the theme of community and just how the Sask Tech community is such a supportive environment. Everyone knows each other and is working together. And I think that extends to students too, right? Students, you've seen here that there are so many adults and professionals out in the community who are willing to help you. You can reach out to them. You can reach out to our panelists through us, even through our website too, if you need to get a little bit more advice. And so again, we would just want to thank the panelists here today, and we really appreciate you helping out. So folks, I just want to gather a little bit of feedback on today's event. So if you are a student who is with us today, you could see, even if you're watching this recording after, maybe in the digitized room, you can see that there's a QR code and a URL on your screen right now. If you just take a minute to fill that out, it will help us immensely in many ways, and you'll also get entered into a draw to win a gift card. And yes, those actually do happen. So check that out. And teachers, we have a separate link for you. So there's another QR code and a URL there that you can go to just to take a minute or two to give us some feedback. We would appreciate it and love to hear from you for sure. And folks, if you want to learn some more about information communication technology, just getting started in technology careers, again, I remind you to check out Digitize 2021, which is happening this week all the way till May the 14th. You can access that through our website. We could still get you involved if you'd like, even though our registration deadline is passed. We also have a couple of videos that are going to be up on our website throughout the week. We have a Spotlight on Careers video series, which looks at some of those roles that our panelists were talking about today, some professionals from our community here. And we also have a post-secondary video, which is going to give you a couple of possible pathways for a future in a technology career. So check out saskatooniec.ca/ICT for more information on that. And for those of you who don't know, our Spotlight on Careers series this year is getting wrapped up in May. I can't believe it's already May. But you can see on your screen all of the different sectors that we focused on this year. Lots of different resources, and all the events that we've done, like this one today, are recorded and used as resources on the website, so you can always access them. So if you have a question about career in healthcare, perhaps, we hope that you'll check out our Spotlight page, find the healthcare specific one, and see some of the events or resources that we have on there. We hope that's something that's beneficial for students and teachers and parents alike. I really, on top of thanking the panelists and our moderator, also want to thank RBC Future Launch again. I want to thank our SIEC staff for their support in making this event happen today. And I especially want to thank all the teachers and educators in the community around Saskatchewan who have helped spread the word about SIEC programming and just opening up these opportunities for students to participate. So we always thank them, and we're always grateful for their support in connecting students with career development and career discovery opportunities. So I also just want to mention that if you're on any of these social media platforms, or if you give us a little subscribe on YouTube, you can keep up to date on the events that we are offering and the resources that we're posting. And you know, I heard a theme today of getting involved in some programming when you're in high school. You know, you can always check out our skills boot camp programs next year, especially for those in grade 11 and lower right now, and maybe our SAS Code program as well. We hope that those programs are going to help some students get their foot in the door with the tech community as well. So thanks so much for joining us again today, everyone. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see you again at a future event.